Yo, what is good everybody? Welcome back to yet another serum tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make this thick, juicy serum bass. I can throw some drums behind it and starting from the top, initialize preset, easy. The two wavetables we need are B-sod square, and we also need basic shapes, like so. So first things first, randomization for the first oscillator off. Dragging this octave down 2, unison, crank it up to 6. A little bit of detune as well. For basic shapes, we want the saw wave. We'll drag it down 2 octaves, and we're gonna mess with the fine tuning very shortly. But before that, we want some sync, no window, and for os A, we want, oh, I can't see it, it's off screen, AM from B. We're not going frequency modulation, we're going amplitude modulation this time. We want noise to be on, AC hum, yes, pitch a little bit up, level, and we'll decide that later. So yeah. And for the filter, we want bandpass and notch. So that is BN12. And we'll create an interesting sound. We want that for A and B. And lastly, sub bass of course, and 2 octaves down as well. That is the very rough setup of the front screen inside of Serum. The rest is just gonna be LFO mapping and effects. So yeah, LFO 1's going to be our main shaping LFO. We're going to put it on heaps of different random things from the filter to the modulation and etc, etc. And I'll show you later on once we add in all the effects, you'll see how it sculpts the sound. But for this we want like a sharp rise and then a slow fall off. First thing we're going to map it to is the sync modulation on os B. No, I meant window full, there we go. Drag that back to just like 11 o'clock maybe. Going to have to adjust the LFO trigger. And maybe over 2 bars. Can't really hear what that's doing, but don't worry, it'll come into effect later on. And onto here. We want it to be affecting either side of this magical line right here. So far it's only to the right. We can change that in matrix, remember what it is. B, fine tune, and we will click type and it should go left and right now. Perfect. Click, hold, drag, pull it back just a bit. We want to move this up a little bit as well. I think the best values for like this kind of effect is between like 10 and 40s cooking it. It starts to get real out of sync and detuned at that point. See if we can kind of gauge what that sounds like with these off. So you'll hear what I mean when I drag it out even more. Yeah. But anyway, back to this shape how it was before. Like so. Got the detune sorted, now it's time to work on the filter. Click, hold, drag, cutoff. Click, hold, drag, resonance. Click, hold, drag, frequency. Cutoff, we just want a little bit, leave it how it is there. Resonance, we want it very resonant-y, so it will create some interesting peaks, which will pass through a filter and sound. And that filter, no, pass through OTT later on, and then the sound And frequency, we want this up in the mids. Personal preference at the end of the day, what you want that kind of filter to sound like. And next LFO is gonna be left off, and we'll drag this out to a bar. This is gonna be our AM from B. Drag it up just a little bit and have it here. The reason why we're leaving it off is because it's going to trigger at random points wherever we are on the grid in Ableton, as you can see by that line. Whereas our filter and our os B stuff always start back at the beginning. And the last LFO, if I'm honest, is a little bit of shithousery. I really wanted to make the noise super wide, but I don't think it's kind of possible to section that specific noise off to a specific effect module to make that wide. So I kind of had to improvise and well, basically set this at trigger the fastest rate possible. When it's so fast it just says fast, and then drag this onto the panning of noise, so it will be panned left and right extremely fast. See if we can hear this. So it's just noise, but we don't want it too wide, so we'll go here. And remember, this noise is going to be accentuated with our distortion and our OTT, so if it sounds normal ish there, we need to bring it back because the high end's gonna get completely sizzled out later on. And yeah, that is our main screen. Actually, might change this to triangle. Yeah, there we go. Effects time, yeah boy. There's quite a few effects to add. Reese basses could either be super simple or they could be like absolutely processed to the days, noisier, and sound really good. So yeah. So we want the flanger with the mix quite backed off. Again, if you want to adjust the mix, personal preference, up to you. Phaser, this will be backed off as well, but with some interesting settings like depth and frequency. Which we will hear later on when it gets smashed through distortion and whatnot, which is coming up. Distortion, click, hold, drag this after the phaser. We do want a lot of distortion. We can hear that peak now. It's really gritty and distorted, and it's just... It's getting there, guys. Next up, we want hyper dimension, which is our widening tool. We want to make it even wider, just because. A little bit of a fast rate and quite a lot of detune as well. It is a Reese bass, so it needs a bit of detune. And unison, yeah, 7. But that doesn't sound too flash, so we'll turn the mix down a little bit. Nice, and dimension, size, and mix around in the 9 o'clock position. It doesn't need to be any more wider, but I just like, let's make it loud, let's make it distorted, let's make it wide, and then yeah. It's resonant-y, it's distorted, it's deep. We need to make it thick, so compressor, multi-band, bring in the OTT. Notice how I said the noise was gonna come up? I wasn't lying. Oh my god, that's too much. Yeah, it's just that, and just have a little bit of noise. That high end is gonna slam. Actually, I'm tempted to bring it down even more. I want to bring up the high frequencies even more with this OTT, because if you're looking at our filter, there's not that much that's happening around there, so we can... Sick. We'll add some reverb now, just put it in a bit of space. Give it even more of a monstrous presence with reverb, emulate a space that it's in. But we don't want that clashing with the bass too much, so I'm going to pull back the size a little bit and the mix just a little bit. Leave the high cut. And lastly, filter, I'm going to change it to MG low 12, cut off all the way up. It's not doing that much, it's rolling off the high end just a little bit. The reason why I wanted to leave it in this tutorial is to create even more Reese-ness. Classic low pass Reese sound. So it's there if you want it, and I'm going to turn it off for the time being. But remember, filter, low pass, it's there, it's easy to access, so for future reference, if you want to pull back the frequency on the filter just a little bit, make it even deeper, that is why it's there. Couple more things to add: monophonic, legato, and bring up the portamento. This is the glide in between the two notes. So before we could play multiple notes, it just sounds messy, and monophonic legato will help our slide. So now that the thick Reese bass is pretty much done, like I said, going back to that first LFO, it dictates a lot of how the sound sounds. Because lower, we have less sync, we've got lower filter values, and we've got lower detune-ness on the second os. So it's just like a gritty, classic, distorted Reese bass. But if we drag it up, the detune goes crazy, the sync goes crazy, the filter goes crazy, and that's how we get that distorted foghorny sound. Okay, that was way too much. Resonance can come down a little bit. That middle range of resonance is probably a little bit too much. Yeah, something like that. Tweaking values. We can throw some drums behind it and... And that, my friends, is the thick, juicy Reese Bass. Hopefully you did enjoy. Leave a like if you did, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Peace!